I didn't watch all the way to the end.
What did I just watch? Daniel is respected in the community. How could you put
That's okay. You know, as an expert in AI, I can assure you that that was all real. There was no AI in.
Okay, so I never see the intro before showtime. Taffy sends these to Rob, and Rob gives approval. Which I can't believe you approved that last 3 seconds, Rob.
Oh, well, here's the thing. I watched until the Anthony Stein bit and laughed so hard and didn't watch until the end, so I didn't know I was going to be in it.
Where's my role? You know.
So, well, here's the thing. I don't think Daniel's going to be out.
Are we still live, or did YouTube shut us down yet?
That's what I'm wondering.
So far, still live.
Like, I'll be more amazed if Rob isn't fired after that video.
I'll be honest, Daffy. The well part was maybe
that was pushing it. Yes, I would say that was a bit much. Okay, it's Avoiding Babylon, and you really never know what you're going to get on this channel, apparently. But Daniel O'Connor.
I don't understand all the I don't actually know what all the symbolism means, but I guess I'm probably not in the conversation as much. I guess that was highly symbolic, but
the gate at the end took me longer than it should have, honestly. But
that, first off, Taffy, it was a very long intro. Like, we have to keep the intro. I know it's funny and comedic, and everybody
say 1.5 times is just perfect.
So, but Daniel O'Connor, I apologize if anything in that intro offended you.
It was humorous, that's for sure.
Okay.
I'm gonna watch it a few more times. You know, it's gonna be my new soundtrack.
My wife goes, "Should I watch the show tonight?" I'm like, yeah, you'll probably find it interesting. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have so much explaining to do at the end of the show.
Aunt, what does this mean? Aunt, what does that mean?
Okay. All right. So, well, Daniel O'Connor, who has become a very good friend of the show at this point. Like, we really do love Daniel, and it's very hard to get you on the show because you're such a busy man.
Gonna be harder after that.
I've been telling Anthony for months and months and months I'm coming on, and then I'm just a complete wreck. You know, I'm always thinking I'm about to get back into it, and then like a wall falls down or something, and like 800 other things. But finally, thank you for inviting me.
You're like us, like you have a real job. Like, you're not like an influencer. So I mean,
yeah, I am not an influencer, and I have no desire to be an influencer. Yeah. I teach. I have a job in the secular world, so that's what I do.
Yeah, same with Rob and I. And I was actually off today because I do utility work for like Con Edison. We do paving for them, and they didn't want us paving today because there was snow in the city over the weekend, and they were worried that, you know, there would be issues. So I was home today, and what I realized is the days when I'm not working, it's kind of tricky for me to get into the rhythm of a show at 8 p.m. at night. So it's like, thank God for my day job, because I think it actually makes me better at this, strangely, oddly enough. But so okay, before we get into anything, we do have some housekeeping to do. We have 2 sponsors that sponsor our show. Which one do you want to do first, Rob?
Let's do Requisite first. They're the oldest.
So Requisite Sellers is the OG of sponsors for Avoiding Babylon. They have been supporting us for a very long time. We love Requisite. Requisite is owned by a Catholic family out in Washington. They have sat through intros like that for months and have not canceled their sponsorship. But if you go to Requisite,
check your texts.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll see how tonight goes. But go to requisitesellers.com and use code BASED at checkout for 10% off. February's coming, and I'm going to basically pressure them to get us 20% off for Valentine's Day, because I think Valentine's Day is a wonderful time to get a discount on your wine as a gift for Valentine's Day. So February's coming up. I will get on that for you guys. But in the meantime, you get 10% off if you use code BASED at checkout, requisitesellers.com. They also sell fruit. They are a wonderful, wonderful family. And I think it's important that we support Catholic entrepreneurs and look out for each other. There's not many other companies doing what, and especially the people who sponsor our show. Like, we have some very unique sponsors. We don't get your typical Real Estate for Life or, you know, fide.e for email or whatever, even though we'll give them free plugs just by saying that. But we should get one of those codes from from them, because we do mention them pretty often, even without it. But ReckiesandCellars.com, use code BASED at checkout. They are an amazing place to shop for wine. And then what's our second sponsor, Rob? I think you guys are going to enjoy this. This is not a typical ad read we're about to get into, right?
Right. Here we go.
There's another tap. That was Taffy. You should be paid. Taffy should be paid for that. That's actually.
I do have some bad news for Taffy. That was awesome, but Taffy, they told me they're actually changing all their branding here this week. So that was a one and done, buddy.
So Knick-Knack, I'm not allowed to tell you guys that it is a smoking cessation device. I'm not allowed to tell you guys that, but it is awfully helpful on my end. Personally, it's awfully helpful for smoking cessation. We love Knick-Knack also. This is what I was saying. Like, the companies that actually sponsor us are Catholic families that are looking to start unique businesses. There's nothing better than having alcohol and nicotine as our sponsors.
And both Ant and I actually do use both. So.
I use them every single day. My favorite right now is Cool Mint. So which ones do you like, Rob?
I've been doing the blood orange, but I think wintergreen is my favorite.
Wintergreen's good too. So yeah, all right. Now Knick-Knack has put out like 20% off for things. We get you guys 25% off. So if you guys want to give Knick-Knack a try, use code AB25% for 25% off. Just make sure you put AB25% as your code. We very much are appreciative of Knick-Knack. Your sponsors are currently working on public relations statements to release when they are questioned about being seen on your channel.
Just tell them to forward that one to me as well. So.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now to the show. So it is interesting that we use, like, Taffy uses so much AI to get into to introduce our show.
It's one good use of AI is funny memes. I'll admit that much.
Well, what's kind of interesting is AI is a tool, right? And it's not, because the way they present AI is as if there's this general intelligence, and they want us to believe that there is actually going to be. I mean, should we start with like the Yuval Harari clip or something, Rob? Because the things that they're saying about AI, like, it's worrisome in one aspect, but because I want to get your take on something I've been thinking about a lot lately, Daniel, which is AI is. Right now, it's basically just a language model predictor, and
the chatbots, anyways. Yeah,
like the Chat GPT and things like that. It's just a language model predictor, and you can see Rob has pointed this out that like eventually that will kind of eat itself, because the language prediction will come from other language prediction models, and eventually it's just.
When everything on the internet's AI generated, and it's using all that to.
It's a negative feedback loop. And I think we're already starting to see the results of that. I think it's hallucinating even more now than it used to. I mean,
it really
I can't prove that, but it's constantly wrong.
It also is getting more and more, like, in some sense, when it first came out, it's very easy to tell what was AI and what wasn't in terms of writing. Then it got better, but now it has in every model has developed a single style between them all. Right. When you read something, within 2 sentences, you know it was AI. You might not be able to point to it, but it has this style that is very unique.
What's interesting is Daniel's pretty good at picking that up, and I've seen a couple of things Daniel's pointed out lately. One is Mike Lewis's article and it was like Daniel basically ran it through an AI predictor, and he was like, this thing is saying like 99.9% certainty that Mike Lewis's article was AI. And also Michael Matt's tweet, Rob, was an AI written tweet, I think. So Daniel, what made you even run those two through that predictor?
I don't read where Peter is. I can't remember how I even got on the website, but somehow Mike Lewis's hit piece on Father Ripperger just was on my screen. I clicked on it for some reason. And as soon as my eyes were on it, I thought I was reading an essay from one of my undergraduates who I get every every semester, every class. I've got at least a couple who think they're going to get past my rules and they're going to use AI and they're not going to get caught. And they don't realize how obvious it is. I've read thousands of pages of student papers by now just since ChatGPT came out. And it's like I can tell the difference between ChatGPT and a 20-year-old who's never read any philosophy other than what we've already gone over in my class. And so it's the style, as Rob was saying, you can just smell it. And right away I could just smell this, and I could tell this, I'm not saying Mike Lewis just went in and said, write me a whole essay and that was it. I'm saying ChatGPT clearly this was spit out by it. I'm not making that accusation because I don't want to get into all sorts of details. I'm just saying that's what it smelled like. Yeah. And so I decided to run it through Pangram Labs, which, by the way, has been great. Pangram Labs, there's all sorts of AI detectors out there, and everybody says, "Oh, they're not accurate." And yeah, some of them aren't. But I found Pangram Labs to be really good so far, at least. Anything could change any day. But and you can run stuff through it without paying like in a certain level. And I did get the paid tier, but the negative, the false positive rate on it is like almost nothing. It's minimal. And I'm not saying it's definitive proof, but what I did, and this cost money, but I decided I want to see with my own eyes that this is accurate. So I took hundreds of pages of my own stuff, and I'm not trying to toot my horn here. It's like there's nothing special about me just because I don't use AI to write. Most people don't. But the reason I ran my own stuff through it is just because I'm the only one from, subjectively that I can absolutely say with absolute certainty, this is not AI. So to prove, to use as a case study, I ran hundreds of pages of my books through it. Every single solitary case, it detected it as fully human written. So if Pangram Labs says that something's 100% certainty AI, yeah, that's not an ontological 100% certainty, but it's pretty damning.
What's that been like as a teacher? Because you're a teacher, and you're now in the age where kids are just kind of running prompts through these language models. Like you have a very good detector already. How do the students handle you approaching them and saying, "Come on, like what are you doing here?"
It's been everything. Some students, they'll say right away, I apologize, I don't know what I was thinking, and I'm always lenient with them. But then some students get defensive and they start accusing me, and I don't back down. Like I have taken this. I had one student recently who was fighting against this, my saying, yeah, this is clearly AI stuff, and he took it all the way to the very top of he took it all. There had to be this review from high up in the college. Wow. And I didn't withdraw my claim. I'm not going to do that because I know I can smell AI. And at the end of all this big, long, drawn out process, the college said, yes, the professor's right. This is AI. And you failed the class. So you gotta be bold with this. You can't tolerate AI slop, people putting it out there saying it's theirs. We got to have zero tolerance for this.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because you have been on this. You were on this so early on, man. You were like one of the first people I was listening to. Like my first introduction to you was you talking about these two main topics that we're going to discuss tonight. One is this idea that there's going to be some grand disclosure by the government, and we're going to find out that aliens exist, and also the one on AI. And like you've been my go-to guy when discussing this stuff, and you were on top of it so early on. Like, what were the first things that you caught that made you go, all right, I have to write a book on this because this is a major issue?
One of the first, so there were a couple things that got me really saying, not just this is bad, but like this is something I need to crusade against. One of them, and now I can't remember when exactly this was, but Obama came out and he said, alien disclosure is going to create new religions. Oh. And that just right away set off every alarm bell in my conscience that you can imagine. Obama's saying that this is going to generate new religions. And he's not saying that as a warning. He's like, it's just matter of fact. It's like, oh, this is cool. And that's so diabolical, obviously. There's never going to be a new religion. We've got the true religion. There's never going to be a new public revelation unto the end of time. But then also that Vatican nativity scene with the aliens in it, what year was that? 2020 or 2021? Now I can't remember exactly.
I forgot about that.
That's what.
And France is coming out and saying we would baptize them, right?
Yes. 2020.
2020. Okay. So that really got me thinking, all right, this is not only a deception that's infiltrating the world, this is a deception that's infiltrating the church. And that's when I really get angry, because the world is always falling for BS. Yeah. But when the church falls for it, when people in the Catholic Church are falling for it, when you can find it all the way up the hierarchy, that's when I get furious and realize that this needs to be truly crusaded against. So that's when I got writing publicly against it. And then I started writing so much that I realized I had to write a book about it, and that was 2023, and I've just been kind of crusading against it ever since.
What's amazing is that because we all have like people we have that we go to for certain topics, and this weekend I was asked to speak at a conference. We'll talk about the conference on Locals tonight. I don't want to do it here, but there are certain people I go to that I know I can trust on certain topics. But what I've noticed is it's almost never the hierarchy talking about these super important topics that like something that you're talking about, some of the stuff Rob and I have been talking about, even some of the stuff that's in the conversation with young people right now. It's almost like the hierarchy is in this daze where they're still talking about Vatican II and synodality, and it's like the world is like shaking at its core right now. A lot of us are basically anticipating the coming of the Antichrist any day now, and the church seems to just want to discuss Vatican II, synodality, and some of the most absurd things. And it's just it's scary at times when all we want to do is hear from our fathers about what we should be worried about right now, and they're just completely oblivious to it.
Yeah, fiddling while Rome burns, rearranging the deck chairs in the Titanic as it goes down. Choose your metaphor, but it's exactly what we see. With the world, in 1903, Pope St. Pius X said that the world, and this was an encyclical, this was E Supremi. He said that the world had become more engrossed in apostasy from God than ever before in the whole history of the world. Have things gotten better since 1903? I mean,
No.
Would anybody in his right mind say yes? So when we try to look at the present crisis through a purely temporal lens, that's crazy. This is not something we can solve with committees or focusing more on Vatican II or something. We've got to get existentially serious about this.
Somebody's saying your audio's off. It sounds fine to me and Rob. Is anybody else getting that?
To me, it's fine.
All right, let me switch my mic here real quick and see if that helps. All right, I just switched my mic. It's the same.
I mean, you sounded
better
fine
beforehand.
I sounded better before.
No, everybody's no. Everybody's saying audio is fine. All right. So we just have one guy just complaining.
I think every once in a while the camera stutters, so the audio can be a little off from the camera. But oh well.
Yeah, everybody's saying sounds fine. Okay. Yeah, we got a ton of people saying sounds fine. Okay.
Just let me if I should switch back to my other mic and I'll do that. But for now.
No, I mean to me and Rob, you sound fine. So okay. So all right. Well, what I wanted to ask about AI before we get to aliens, yes, guys, they're asking if we're going to get to it. We will absolutely. With the AI thing, I'm part of my concern is that we are creating a body for something that already exists, right? Like I think the last time you were on, we talked about how like the church has always had a category for non-human intelligences. And it's as if modern man, because they're in such a materialist mindset, they have no category for this, which then lends to them talking about because I think aliens and AI are so deeply connected. The two things are very, very, very tightly woven together. And part of me worries that what they're doing is creating a body for a spirit to inhabit. And I do think that is a danger, right? Because what idol worship was in the ancient world is they would build some kind of an image, and then a spirit would actually imbue that image. Or I don't know if I'm using the right word there, but yeah, like a spirit would attach itself to that image. And I'm a little worried that with the AI stuff, yes, it could just be some ridiculous language model that consumes itself. But the other worry is that we're creating a system for some spirit to come into and then start feeding us something really from the depths of hell.
It's exactly what we're doing, and we're doing it in the exact same way that the ancient pagans did. We just think that we're above the influence now because we have science, and it's identical. And on the surface level, AI and aliens have nothing to do with each other. But on a deeper level, they're the exact same deception, just two different channels of it, the NHI deception. You cannot insert new categories into the great chain of being. Why? Because the great chain of being is divine revelation and its sacred tradition, both of which, of course, are infallible. The sensus fidelium is infallible, the sense of the faithful, which has always been unanimous on the great chain of being, from inanimate matter to plants to animals to humans to angels to God. That's reality. That's everything there is. You can't just insert a new category in there because some knucklehead says disclosure or says AGI. No. When we're dealing with a non-human intelligence, the Christian faith is absolutely clear. The Catholic faith is absolutely clear. A non-human intelligence is either an angel or a demon. That's it. There's no other possibilities there. So when we do create, that's exactly what we're doing, Anthony, is when we buy into this deception that there could be aliens or AI, we're creating a void. We're creating a vacuum for deception to enter into, just as the ancient pagans did. They worshiped their idols, and their idols didn't just sit there and do nothing. In fact, they actually did move and they did speak. Yeah. Why? Not technologically, just like AI will never actually be rational, but because it was demonic. And Augustine, in fact, I happen to have the quote right in front of me. He said that these were gods made by men, that is to say demons, through some art of I know not what description, bound by chains of their own lusts to images. And Augustine says this happened all across the world before Christianity, that the idols that they worshipped actually would speak and would come alive. Yeah. And that's, people think, oh, we would never fall into that again, would we? We already are. We're treating an inanimate, dumb hunk of matter, a large language module, we're treating it as if it's a person. And it's not just, yes, I'm concerned about the mark of the beast and the image of the beast, and I do think that's coming. But you don't need to just have future prognostications here. Just look at what's already happening. Look at the chatbots. Look at the AI companions. People are already entering into relationship with AI.
I think it's interesting that you have an event like the Tower of Babel, so wrapped up in language and human languages and the breaking of human language into multiple. Now we have these language, these large language models that are gathering all of human language and works together in some sort of weird unification of it. Almost.
Well, that's also apocalyptic. Yeah, it's symmetric to Genesis in multiple ways. Obviously my main thesis here is it's the first and last deception, but also it's the new Babel. They thought, Babel, they thought they could build the tower to reach the heavens, and it focuses on language. And that's exactly what they're doing with AI. They think they can build this tower to reach the heavens, namely to access all knowledge. Serious scientists actually think AI is going to unlock the secrets of the universe for us, when in fact it can't even do what a 7-year-old kid can do.
What's super interesting is to people today, because we believe that there's one God, and I think a lot of modern readers of scripture and a lot of people who live in the modern world are so they live in such a materialist world, and they have such a view of scripture that is kind of like influenced by the sola scriptura Protestant way of reading it, that we almost think that the demons in the ancient world just weren't real. Right. And that they weren't real, that there was only one God, and these statues and idols that they worship, they weren't real, but in a very real sense, they were. Right. These were demons, and they had oracles that would prophesy, and people would offer sacrifice to these idols, and they would get something from them. And I think modern man has no category for this in their brain. They don't get that these demons were real, and that what we're doing now is bringing those demons back.
Yeah. And we spent so much time thinking all we have to do is refute atheism. And yes, we do need to refute atheism, but we didn't think about what will happen when we convince people there is more, there is the anomalous, there is the amazing, but we don't warn them against the demonic. They still think there's no demons, so they just chase headlong after anything anomalous. And that's the key word now. That, you know, we've got all these Catholics promoting UFO deception as if it's a great thing because they just love anything anomalous, because they think anything anomalous is just automatically good. No, when it's anomalous, that means you have to enter into discernment mode to see if it's angelic or demonic. And nobody's doing that in the whole UFO AI stuff. They're just gobbling it up. They are just so giddily accepting it without the faintest clue that the demonic is being invited in. It's like a high-tech Ouija board, really.
Now you pay attention to like this world way more than I do, but I know there on Sean Ryan's show, that woman went on, I can't remember her name.
Was it Pasulka?
Yes. Now she wrote a book talking about how basically that these things, the phenomena of alien abduction is stuff that you could actually trace back, and the best place you could go is if you read the accounts of the saints, and that but her position is that like these were alien encounters back in the Middle Ages. They weren't demonic encounters. Like what do you make of her even being platformed on these big shows like Sean Ryan and things like that?
And Joe Rogan. She was on Joe Rogan, the biggest podcast in the world. So she has become the de facto Catholic representative of ufology, which I think the danger of that, you can't exaggerate it, because what she's promoting is the platform of the Antichrist, plain and simple. She's promoting this idea that we can reevaluate, rewrite all of biblical history, all of salvation history. Basically, her thesis is, back in those unscientific times, we called all of this demonic or angelic. But now that we have quantum physics, and now that we can put physics on it, now that we're more scientific, we understand that it's really the interdimensional non-human intelligence. And what that does is that makes you inject a false category into the great chain of being, as we were talking about a minute ago, a gray category. No pun intended. The gray is being
the gray aliens.
Yeah. But the thing is, gray areas only exist with the natural. When I got sin and goodness in me. Hopefully I've got some goodness in me. I know I got sin in there. But with the non-human intelligences, there's no gray. It's 100% good or 100% bad. It's black and white. The discernment is just, is it one or the other? Is it demonic or is it angelic? So you open yourself up to being deceived when you even begin the dialogue. And that's why the fall happened, because Eve began a dialogue. She never should have even dialogued with the non-human intelligence, because none of us are up to that. No one is ready to dialogue with the devil.
Even when you see all of these, when they have in Congress, they'll ask these basically CIA plants, right? These guys they're all Central Intelligence Agency guys, and they go in. When they give their testimony, they never actually say things like, we found alien life from another planet. They never say anything like that. They always describe them as non-human intelligences, and they're very careful in how they describe them. They'll say, we found biotic matter, like weird words that I had never heard before. But then you go and watch the testimony of this guy before Congress, and he just starts saying these strange phrases that clearly mean these things are not from another planet at all whatsoever. They're just, I don't know what to even make of these.
They're trying to make non-human intelligence become the new word for space alien, because all right, how am I going to make this
biologics? That's the word.
So biologics.
Yeah.
The thing is that the non-human intelligence is becoming the new word, because the devil, even amid the times of the Antichrist, the devil will always be chained. He will always have limits on his power. He'll never be able to work a true miracle. He'll never be able to truly become incarnate. So even amid the peak of the Great Deception itself. So-called aliens will not be walking around in bodily form having dinner with us or anything like that. The devil's not capable of that. So we're being groomed to accept this more as the interdimensional non-human intelligence idea. And I think that language shift is because it's so soon now. They're trying to shift the pendulum away from fiction and into Congress. And they want us to be open to communications from the non-human intelligences. Yeah. The Antichrist, who knows exactly? I certainly don't. But I think he'll be presented as either an extraterrestrial or as an emissary of the extraterrestrials. But of course, he'll just be a man.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. Oh, you think that much? You think it's that deep? I
think he'll at least claim to be either himself of extraterrestrial origin or an emissary of the extraterrestrials. And why? Because he will, as much as possible, ape the things of Christ. That's why he's the Antichrist. He imitates Christ as much as possible, but in a completely inverted way. Jesus really was not from earth. He really was from God the Father. What's the secular, atheistic, pseudo-religious way of doing that? The ET deception, and the AI aspect of it being the image of the beast.
There's so many places we have to go in this interview.
I know. I threw a lot out there.
Okay, so we have to get to like Jimmy Aiken talking about aliens. We have to get to Matt Fradd not canceling his interview with you. But before we get to any of that, like, stick around, guys. Like, this interview's going a lot of places. So we have also this documentary that comes out, The Age of Disclosure. We also have the Steven Spielberg movie coming out, right? So Daniel and I were talking in the green room a little bit and talking about how, because I this is how we even wrap this one together. So the conversation that we're going to do on the other side is going to be a lot about Christian Zionism. We're going to talk about kind of the Daily Wire and their new framing of things, but there's also this element where all these documentaries are being put forward, and even the Steven Spielberg movie, it almost seems like they are presenting this stuff because it's a preparation for this messianic figure that's going to come, right?
Mm-hmm. We have been prepared to place our messianic hope in the non-human intelligences for decades now. And when you think about the Jews, why did the Jews reject Jesus? Well, a number of reasons, but I think I actually brought this up the last time I was on Avoiding Babylon, that one of the chief reasons the Pharisees gave is they said, when the Christ comes, they said to Jesus, we know where you are from, because, he was the son of Mary. But they said, when the Christ comes, no one will know where he came from. But none of the authentic prophecies of the Old Testament said that. This was a deception of the Jews at that time, that this idea that he'll have to just pop out of nowhere from some extraterrestrial source.
Yeah.
And my theory is that a contingent of Jews has been waiting for 4,000 years now, because they have this false idea. And of course, this is all prophesied of what to expect from the Messiah. And I think they're waiting for an extraterrestrial Messiah, which is exactly what some of the biggest names in ufology are doing now. We've got Avi Loeb is one of the biggest UFO promoters in the world right now. He's a celebrity Harvard astrophysicist.
He was the guy who thought the recent comet was an alien. Yeah. Okay.
He went majorly
viral. Okay. Yeah. Now I know what you're talking about.
Now, I don't know if he's said anything about that since. So I did a
since
podcast.
It just went by and passed.
It's just a comment. Yeah. So it's like obvious. He's always trying to. There was some other comment several years before that he was saying was an alien, and he's always saying he found aliens. But none of the failures seem to decrease his fame. Why? Well, he's a Harvard celebrity astrophysicist. He's top of the UFO arena. But he says very explicitly that the Messiah is coming on a UFO. And he's a Jew. He's probably an atheist like most Jews today, but he's an ethnic Jew who knows his religion enough to know that Judaism is still awaiting the Messiah. And of course, many prophecies speak of them wrongly regarding the Antichrist as the Messiah. But that's exactly what the Antichrist will want to do. Win over the whole world, yes. But I think starting with the Jews who are still awaiting it. So Avi Loeb, he came out. Let me see if I have it on my screen. This is just this month. Let me just.
Can Daniel share anything, Rob?
You know, I could put. I don't know if this
Yeah,
will
he
work,
can.
but I could try putting it on my screen if I'm the. If I'm. Is that showing up?
Yeah.
Yep.
Hold
So
on, let me make you bigger here.
Okay.
There you go.
Shoot, I'm starting to go down a rabbit hole right now. I shouldn't have done
Do it.
this,
Take
though,
us
should
on
I?
a journey,
Go
Daniel.
for it.
Let's go, man.
This is
Let's
what
go.
everyone wants.
Take it away. I don't.
Are we-
Unless
all
I
right.
have to talk, the better.
All right, so here we go. One thing, let me real quick back to my face for a sec. So one thing that went viral recently was this Bank of England thing.
Oh, we
And
have that story. We're
Let
going to
me
talk
just-
about that. Yeah.
That'll actually tie us right into this, into what I was
So,
about
all right,
to
do you
bring
want to
up.
bring that up first and
So-
run?
Well, let him talk.
Let me hold on. Now I lost my screen. I can't see you guys. Oh, there. So all right, I found this again.
This is a classic avoiding Babylon.
I got
episode.
to plug my other screen back in, and I'm dealing with a number of technical issues here. You guys might be able to see there's a cinder block behind me. I had to rip down my wall here because the pipe burst because it was cold, and it's
Looks better than my
nonstop issue.
studio. You're good.
So this news story went viral recently about this Bank of England analyst who said we got to prepare financially for UFO disclosure. But that analyst herself, I didn't see anything really said about her, but I know her. I don't know her personally, but she's a big shot ufologist. She spoke at a number of UFO conferences, even the chief UFO conference, the Seoul conference. And she's been writing about this, promoting this deception for years. And here's her first article. This was back in 2022. This is the Bank of England analyst who said we got to prepare for financially for UFO disclosure. Here's where she broke into the fray here. As far as I know, at least, this is the earliest article of hers that I'm aware of. Helen McGraw. Is that legible?
Yeah.
If I
Yes.
that's big
Yeah,
enough.
Mr.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yep.
So she starts her UFO article with a quote from Carl Sagan, who was one of the earlier, in the modern era, that is, earlier ET deception promoters. He didn't believe in physical UFOs, but he was a big promoter of the more general ET deception. He thought we were going to be saved by radio contact from aliens. But she starts this article quoting Carl Sagan about how arrogant, how it's a neglect of evidence and a shameful resistance to knowledge to believe that the universe was made for us.
Yeah.
And I'll pause there for a moment because that's so central to this lie that there's aliens. This deception that aliens exist, that we need to remake the whole great chain of being because of this thesis. It's a rejection of the essence of creation, which is that God, infinitely perfect and blessed in himself in a plan of sheer goodness, he created the universe. Why? Because of this foreseen plan that he knew he'd become incarnate. He knew all of this beforehand. The whole plan of the universe is 100% about human beings. God made man, specifically. Jesus Christ is the one who sums up all things in heaven and on earth and under the earth. So the Antichrist, with this one lie of aliens, he's much smarter than any of us. He realizes he can dismantle the whole construct. That I don't mean that in negative, but he can dismantle the whole of sacred tradition, honestly, with this one lie. And the ET promoters themselves, the UFO promoters themselves, they realize this. The more serious of them, the big shots, they realize full well that promoting belief in aliens, especially aliens here, the UFO deception, it undermines the whole Christian cosmology. It really does.
Do you before you jump in any further? Do you see a connection? Because this is one of the things that like really affected me was the people who push evolution. It's almost like the same people who are Catholic, like these are Catholics who want to convince me that evolution is totally acceptable to believe as a Catholic. They seem to be the same people who are like, well, aliens are possible. Like, because I see those things as very connected, and that if you think life evolved on Earth, you must also think life evolved other places in the universe. And I think evolution was one of those things that they needed to convince us of in order for us to like let that first domino fall. And now you see the dominoes falling on other planets. And that like, I don't see a separation between those topics.
Absolutely. Oh man, you just made me write down like 4 things now that I need to make sure when I'm jotting down notes, it's because I got to make sure I don't forget something.
I love how
you
much
just got
we
me
get along,
going.
Daniel.
You guys better settle down for a few hours. You better get, all right. But okay, so there's a evangelical by the name of Gary Bates. He actually wrote a whole book on belief in aliens and the connection to evolution. And now I can't remember what it's called, but if you look up Gary Bates, it'll come right.
Gary
up.
Bates, you said. I'll look that up.
I think it's Alien Intrusion, come to think of it. And the subtitle has evolution right in it. And he's absolutely right about that. This belief in aliens is very tied to belief in evolution. And Stanley Jockey was I quote him all the time. If you've seen my videos before, I'm sure you're probably bored to hear me say this because I've quoted it before, but he was this legendary Catholic priest, physicist, monk, theologian, professor. I mean, he was amazing. But he said that this idea of aliens, that he was a world-renowned scientist, this guy. So he traveled in all these circles that Catholic priests, theologians don't usually travel in. So he was invited to the head of SETI, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence.
Yeah. That book, you were right. It's Alien Intrusion, UFOs, and the Evolution Connection.
Oh, that's literally what it's called. Okay, so yeah. So the evangelicals are absolutely right about that. The problem is only Catholicism is going to save you from this, because evangelicals fall into a different deception, which hopefully I'll remember to get to because I've got it on my piece of paper here. But what was I just saying? Oh yeah, so SETI and Father Jockey. So SETI is a search for extraterrestrial intelligence, and it's an official government-backed search for aliens. It's crazy that we have this, but it's been very heavily funded since at least the 60s. It was started by Dr. Frank Drake, and he came up with a famous Drake equation, which supposedly proves that there's all sorts of aliens in the galaxy. It's typical pseudoscientific BS masquerading as actual science. But he said that his search for the whole search for extraterrestrial intelligence was motivated by a search for immortality.
Oh, wow.
And you think of scripture, that fear of what has enslaved humanity throughout all history? Fear of death.
Yeah.
And what did the serpent promise in the garden? You will not die.
Surely you won't die.
Right.
Yeah.
Immortality is the chief deception of the Antichrist. We will not die. And so no death and godlike knowledge are the two chief promises of the serpent in the garden. And those are the two chief promises that we get now through the NHI deception in both its UFO ET varieties and its AI variety. So Frank Drake, he starts the search for extraterrestrial intelligence explicitly. He's very explicit about this. He says, we are searching for the Encyclopedia Galactica that will give us the key, that the aliens will give us the key to immortality with it. And so Father Jockey, he goes around in these SETI circles, and he reports back that they are desperate to find proof of aliens, because that they think will prove that humanity also is just a random product of evolution. So they think that if only they can show that life, that intelligent life, especially exists in multiple places in the universe, that it's going to be a refutation of this, of the truth, namely that, of course, God made us. So very, very connected deceptions here. And the chief scientific way that we can rule out aliens is the rare earth hypothesis, which is more just the rare earth truth, that the mere mathematical scientific impossibility of what we have here on Earth, it doesn't matter if there's 1 trillion times as many planets as they say there are. There's still a mathematically 0% chance of even an intelligent life amenable planet existing anywhere else, much less life actually so-called evolving. Which,
I mean, like just the moon, which is 186,000 miles away. If it was a few hundred miles closer, I'm leaving the moon. The landing itself is a different subject. But if it was a few hundred miles closer or further, the tides would be such where life would be impossible on Earth.
Father Jockey has like a whole book on that, about the moon itself. Maybe he doesn't have a whole book, but he wrote a lot about it. That just the moon is so impossibly perfect that it alone refutes any notion that we weren't specifically designed here.
What's really interesting about what you're saying is that, Rob, it might have been you that pointed this out to me, that all of the things you even see like Elon talking about with oh, in the future with AI, you won't need to work anymore. It's almost like everything you see they're doing, they're trying to reverse the curse from the Garden of Eden, right?
It
Like
all
the
goes back
punishments. The punishments of the fall are like man has to toil in the garden, and women will have to experience childbirth, pain in childbirth. And they're like, oh, we're gonna have these pods where we grow children, and you're like everything they're doing seems to want to undo the curse from the fall.
It's the anti-Genesis, and that's why disclosure, the very word disclosure, is the same word for revelation, apocalypse, and uncovering.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you're right.
Wow.
Yeah, disclose. Yeah,
and it's the anti-Genesis, and it's the anti-revelation.
Yeah, the unveiling.
And this is
their disclosure is
equally true for AI and UFO stuff. Sorry.
No. I never put that together. That disclosure means unveiling, which unveiling is
apocalypse.
An apocalypse.
Apocalypse, right? A disclosure, an unveiling. So it is the secular revelation. It's the secular substitute for divine revelation, and it purports to give everything the divine revelation gives, but without any of the dogmatic or moral baggage.
The crazy thing is like the secular religion, because it is a secular religion, right? Like they have their end times with climate change. They have their holy days of obligation.
Oh no. Climate change went away as soon as they needed data centers for AI.
Right. That's the thing. It's funny how this has suddenly overtaken everything.
But it is funny. Like people think, especially the atheists, that somebody even just said before, they were like, atheists love pointing out how insignificant they are, but they need to believe that, right? It's the only thing. If you ever point out how perfect the world is for us, it kind of refutes atheism in general. Like I remember looking at a sunrise one time and being like, how can you look at that and not believe in God? You know, it's just so perfectly tuned for us.
Solar eclipse.
The
moon is the exact size for that distance away for it to cover the sun. Are you joking me? Like,
but we were in like a chilly place, and I was sitting in the sunrise, and as I felt the warmth of the sun come up, I was just like, man, even when you're in a cold place, the warmth of that sun, like God really did tune this planet perfectly for us. You know, it's like it's
you got to have the eyes of faith to see that, though. As Fulton Sheen said, you know, the signs of the times, especially today, can only be understood through the eyes of faith. And of course, what you say has always been true, but an atheist would look at the exact same thing and see it in a radically different light. And of course, he's deceived. But you've got to, what's the phrase? Touch grass. You know, you gotta touch grass sometimes, and then that'll remind you of what God has done for us.
I derailed you like 9 times, but you wrote a bunch of notes down, so go back to your notes and make sure you cover all the points.
Good. All right, well, no, please derail me more often, otherwise I will never stop. But what were we talking about? I don't. Well, I do have a few notes.
The Bank of England.
The Bank of England. The Bank of England
okay,
story. That's where you were going. Yeah.
Okay, so Bank of England, Gary Bates. All right, we did Gary Bates. SETI. Okay, SETI, Father Jockey. All right, so Father Jockey with SETI, and that'll bring us back to this. So Father Jockey, God rest his soul, he died, I think 2009 or something. But he warned that these, I don't have the exact quote, but he said behind these bravados about extraterrestrials, you either see the strategy of the devil or you remain blind. So he said you've got to be blind to not see that the devil is behind this contemporary push for belief in aliens. And he said this decades before now, you know, when it's gotten a million times worse than when he was alive.
To clarify for everyone, he was talking about SETI. SETI. Search for extraterrestrial intelligence.
The SETI are aliens, clearly.
SETI.
They're
out there. Yeah. Oh man, there's more I could say about what's going on with SETI right now.
We're gonna play the Harari clip, man. No. So what we were talking about is the connection between evolution and the belief in aliens, right? Like, so because that one is really important to me. And then you kind of took us down a little road with Father because of that. So he sees this need to discover aliens as as this confirmation of evolution, and hence a confirmation that there is no God, that we are that we're just a result of chance. But he also said that the devil is clearly behind this, and that just as he deceived Eve in the beginning, I wish I had the quote, but so too he does the same now, which is more deceptive than ever. Why? Because it wears the guise of science now.
So the ultimate deception is going to wear the guise of science. And why? Because of not because of just arbitrary pseudoscience, not so much that. Yeah, although it certainly will be pseudoscientific, of course, because science itself is, of course, a good, and it, faith never contradicts reason. We all know that. But the modern myth, which Scripture says men will wander back into the end times. In the end times, the myth that we will wander into. What is the prevailing myth? What the myth meaning the great story, the story that undergirds contemporary fascination. It's science fiction. If you ask me, the great modern myth is science fiction. And if you want to find a replacement for religion, and what is a replacement for religion? It's what people get giddy about. It's what people put their existential excitement in. What do they do that in today more than ever before? Aliens and AI.
Yeah.
From a science fiction standpoint, they've been molded by Hollywood, especially for the last 60 years, to wait for AI to become truly rational and for aliens to disclose themselves. And all of that is reaching this head right now today. So all right. So the next thing in my notes that I had there, I can go back to any time, but let me pause so I don't talk too long without handing it back to you.
Well, I don't want to jump you off of that because you're taking us down some really interesting paths. I am wondering, man, because especially when you get to because while we're talking about evolution and stuff, I don't want to miss that. But like, there was this really weird stuff that like Jimmy Akin was talking about aliens, and then it seemed like Matt Fradd was going to have you on his show, and then somebody behind the scenes told him, don't have Daniel on. Clearly that happened. Do you have any guesses as to why that would be? Do you think it was just like somebody in his locals chat didn't want, one of his donors or something? Like, what do you think is that resistance to you talking about this stuff comes from the mainstream Catholic world? What do you think that comes from?
My wife gave me a name, and she's very intuitive, but I shouldn't say it because she's not claiming it was a divine revelation, but she thinks she knows.
Wait,
maybe
speaking of divine revelation, okay, so Daniel texted me and he goes, hey, I had a dream you were going to cancel the show. I woke up this morning and going, because I'm off today, and I'm like, should we push Daniel off?
You just wanted the whole day off.
I was so close to pushing you up, and then you texted me that, and I went, no, we're doing the show tonight. I might have texted
you just wanted to prove I wasn't a prophet.
Your dream wasn't that far off. The thought was totally going through my head to push it off, and I'm like, no, we really need to do this tonight. I'm sorry. So the name, but you don't want to say it publicly, but you think she has an idea?
And it's a big Catholic Inc. name. And or maybe Ben Shapiro, who knows? I think this was before the Daily Wire stuff, but I don't know. Who knows how long that was in the works? I think.
Thorne?
Who knows?
I think it probably was that would be my, and I don't think your wife's crazy to think that, and it's that for some reason Trent doesn't like that. All right, for whatever. I don't want to get you into any drama with Trent or anything, but
I'm sure he's a great guy. I mean, I don't know him personally. I'm sure he's a great guy, but and again, I really don't know who got me canceled. But the point is, and it's not about me. I'm not important. The point is, the big Catholic platforms just don't want the other side to be given for some reason. Like, it's not even allowed to be discussed, the possibility that maybe we can conclude that there are no aliens and all of this. And I'm not condemning anyone as a heretic just for believing in aliens, as much as I do believe the faith rules it out. I understand that there hasn't been an explicit ex cathedra proclamation, like completely spelling it out. So I'm not saying you're a formal heretic if you believe in aliens. I think you're wrong, and I think I can prove you're wrong from the faith.
Stupid,
but stupid.
You're dumb. You're not going to go to hell for thinking it. But like,
you think we landed on the moon, you idiot?
You're also allowed to believe 2 + 2 = 5.
Sure,
but yeah, it's not allowed, and I hope to change that soon. I'm working on some big things right now, which I'm not allowed to publicly discuss just yet, but I'm hoping to change this soon. That I hope to just force this into the mainstream.
You hope to get them all declared heretics?
Yes. In fact, I'm going to personally declare.
No,
war.
it's just a strange thing to me that, like, because this topic seems like something like, as Catholics we should actually explore, and we should, especially if there are things in sacred tradition, and especially if there's things in the catechism, because I know you've pointed several things out in the catechism that should exclude this stuff. But in general, it is another attempt to make man seem insignificant, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the idea that if there's life on other planets, like, Christ came to redeem man. So now if there's this intelligent life on other planets that is rational, like, are they also fallen? Like, do they? Of course they have to be fallen. We're in a fallen universe. We're not just in a fallen world. Like, the whole universe is fallen. So it brings a ton of really important questions up. And it's bizarre to me that guys in the mainstream don't actually want to tackle this issue and discuss it and figure out, is there an approach that we as Catholics need to actually stand by something? And it's almost like they're hedging their bets in case there is a disclosure, that they can go, oh, we're Catholics, we believe in science, we can still play along with this nonsense.
And that's why I'm not condemning. Like, I think they have admirable motives somewhere. I think that they're worried that there might be a disclosure, which, yes, there will be, but it'll be a lie. And they don't want Catholicism to be refuted. Now, and I honor that. Obviously, Catholicism is absolutely true. Nothing can refute it. I will shed every drop of my blood before ever denying a single teaching of the faith. But so I admire that they want to make sure Catholicism is never refuted. But you can't. But they don't realize how circular their reasoning is. They're presupposing the validity, the ontological validity of disclosure, while hedging their bets against disclosure. You can't do that. You can't presuppose that this is a valid concern in seeking to fight to hedge against this concern. It's not a valid concern, and merely having this concern is itself a major avenue for deception. And, Catholic Answers has this explainer on their website, and every Catholic-themed alien article links to it, and they treat it as if it's the magisterium. I don't know who wrote it. It's some explainer on the Catholic Answers website that says there's no Catholic stance on aliens. If there's aliens, it's fine, blah, blah, blah. It's the typical apologist drivel on this that refuses to at all engage with reality. And there was just a Crisis Magazine article that just quoted it as if that's the answer. Like, that's the answer to the Catholic alien question.
One of the biggest arguments I have with Eric Sammons is over this stuff, because and that's kind of what made me put the connection together, is Eric Sammons and his obsession with evolution. And because what I found is that guys more in the mainstream, what they'll say is, oh, it's perfectly acceptable as a Catholic to not believe in evolution or believe in evolution. Both positions are acceptable. But then they'll talk about guys who kind of look at evolution like it's absurd, like we're dumb. Right. And the connection is, like, if you think aliens don't exist, you're also dumb. And it is very frustrating for me as someone who's just like evolution is just the secular creation story. Why would you even care about what the secular creation story is? God gave us a creation story. That's the one you should focus on. And the reason they're giving you that creation story is so that you could believe their other nonsense and BS they're giving us.
Right. And it's crazy. A scientific theory's validity is judged on a number of levels, but also, perhaps most importantly, its ability to predict the future. And evolution has never once predicted the future. We've never been able to say, okay, here's what will evolve next out of this species that we currently observe. Never once. So we don't have a single prediction that's been verified based on it. We don't have a single piece in the fossil record that's verified there's intermediary species. We don't have a single example of information, actual ordered information being added to the genome through a random mutation. There's no scientific evidence for it, not to mention the theological problems with it.
Chaotic systems by their very nature decay. They don't evolve and get more ordered, they become less ordered.
Right. We didn't have fewer, we have more and more people wearing glasses now, not fewer and fewer. Genetics don't get better over time. That's not how thermodynamics works. But yeah, so this idea, it's kind of like it's ugly to not believe in aliens. It's uncool. It's making us irrelevant is the concern.
Against science.
Yeah, it's against science. So they don't even engage with and evolution. I mean, I don't believe in evolution at all, But I think there's even more problems with alien belief, even more theological problems with alien belief. In fact, I can't think of a single domain in the faith that you can actually reasonably reconcile with aliens, whether it's eschatology, protology, Mariology, Christology, ecclesiology, pneumatology. Every single major domain of Catholic theology is actually ruined by believing in aliens.
Yeah.
Why? Because everything centers on God made man. God made man, son of Mary, Jesus of Nazareth, not Jesus of Aquarius or Alpha Centauri or whatever. It's all about the incarnation of Jesus Christ.
It actually like, I don't like that they all say, oh, it wouldn't disprove Catholicism. No, actually, like it doesn't disprove Catholicism. First of all, because it's not true, but it really does de-emphasize the importance of the incarnation.
Right.
Like Christ became man. Christ didn't become some alien species on another planet. Christ became man because God created man to be a wedding gift for his son. And it's a really important thing that when people start playing around with this idea that there's intelligent life on other planets, so intelligent that they can travel light years to come to our planet, which means they're created more intelligent than we are, more rational than we are. Like, I don't get how that is not problematic for Catholics to discuss. Now, we do have.
I think it actually does disprove Catholicism, because if we're saying that, the Catholic dogma is that everything that is necessary to be saved is contained in Holy Scripture, right?
Yeah.
But yet, another rational species existing in the universe seems to change the very nature of salvation. And that's
what Father Thomas went. Excuse me, sorry, I choked my coffee.
It's definitely not because what you might have put in there before the show, right?
We were saying in the show while Daniel's coughing, we were like, "There's something about like people like coming and hanging with us as they get to."
Yeah, we all agreed, to be laid back today. So
yeah, it's laid back, it's fun, we're hanging out. Don't worry. But yeah, go ahead. I want to make sure I don't cut you off.
Sorry, I went down the wrong pipe there. I think I'm good. I'll probably have to have another coffin fit in a minute. But no, I was going to say, Rob, Father Thomas Weinandy, he's one of the greatest theologians alive, and he agrees with you. He said, he's of course 100% Catholic. He doesn't believe it's even remotely possible for Catholicism to be disproved. But as a mere hypothetical, he says, yes, if there's aliens, that disproves Christianity. And again, don't be scandalized by that. He's absolutely, emphatically, absolutely saying there are no aliens. So he's not wondering if Christianity will be disproved. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's a Pauline hypothetical. St. Paul in Scripture, he says, if Christ is not raised, then your faith is in vain. Yeah. St. Paul wasn't wondering if Christ actually wasn't raised.
It's like saying if the Pope can err,
right,
ex cathedra and faith and morals, then that disproves Catholicism, and it does.
Right. So yeah, and that's I absolutely respect that. I've never gotten that far just because I've thought about this endlessly for many years now, obviously, but I still don't feel like I've fully explored every single thing. I'm absolutely 100% certain there are no aliens. I've never gone so far as to say if there are, Catholicism is disproved.
Well, the kind of the point you're presenting to everyone, and I think it's a very important point, is that they are going to try to convince you there are aliens, right?
Right.
Like this is what the thesis of Daniel's work really comes down to, is that they are going to try and convince you there are aliens. They're talking about the age of disclosure, the day of disclosure, and Daniel's point is that no, this is a deception. This is going to be the thing they use to try to unmoor your faith. And it is very important that you actually think, because the way AI is developing, the way the technology is developing, they can make it seem very realistic, and the whole thing is going to be nonsense.
Absolutely. And this is what Scripture warns us against. 2 Thessalonians, it says there will be a strong delusion with false signs and wonders. That doesn't mean true miracles, but it means they'll seem like true miracles if you're not discerning from a solidly Catholic standpoint. And I'm not interested in purely academic debates. I couldn't care less about how many, to borrow a phrase from our enemies, whatever. I couldn't care less how many angels could dance in the head of a needle. And I know that phrase is used to mock us, but like I care about things that are going to concretely affect your salvation in the days ahead. And I'm warning about this not because I just abstractly want people to agree with me, I'm warning about this because I really think the time is coming when we're going to be officially told that aliens exist and they have this message for us. And I've been warning about this for many years now, and I'm not a prophet. I don't know the future, but it just seems to be getting closer and closer with every passing year, this deception.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a connection between all this like this alien deception stuff as well as the push in recent years to decriminalize and legalize weed and DMT and other psychedelics that can, you know, change how you see and perceive things?
Yeah. In fact, I can't remember if I talked about this in a webcast or an article, but the number of people who now have their fundamental ability to discern objective reality radically hampered by psychoactive drugs is changing the dynamics of the world. And I agree with you completely, Rob, that this has got to be connected. The more people on psychotropic drugs, the easier it is to institute deception, because they are already so unhinged from reality through their drug abuse. Man, if you can get weed legal, and now they're trying to legalize mushrooms because pain relief. Oh, stop it. You can get rid of pain there's a million drugs in the market now that'll get rid of any pain no matter how bad. And I'm not saying they're good for you. I'm just saying they exist. To say that we suddenly need to have people doing mushrooms left and right to make them happy or to get rid of their knee pain, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, and you know, everybody that's been taking these hallucinogenics has these stories where this is where people are encountering these gray beings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's
plus
very
once
related,
again,
very much overlap.
Trying to remove pain is just once again undoing, you know, the fall, the curse of the fall.
That's true. Yeah.
Tell me I can't take my Advil, Rob. Daniel, we do have this question I want to get to. After seeing the trailer to the movie The Disclosure, or I think it might be the day.
Don't get me started on Spielberg.
Spielberg.
Oh my goodness, this is going to be a few more hours.
How much do you think his new movie will knock and trash Catholicism? When is your documentary coming out this year? Because you do have a documentary that you put together, and I've been waiting for that also. So yeah.
Yeah, I hope to be able to say more about that pretty soon. A few big things are in the works right now. I can't say it just yet, but stay tuned. Definitely this year, one way or the other. Something significant might be happening there.
Do you think Spielberg's movie is going to be a way to knock and trash our faith?
Unfortunately, it's not. I wish that's all it was, because that would be easy. It's easy to refute people trashing our faith. It's going to be the opposite. It's going to be superficially respecting Catholicism, but using Catholicism as a vehicle of deception. And that is even more dangerous than trashing the faith. We're used to refuting people trashing the faith. They've been doing that for decades and decades now. Spielberg, and this is speculation, I haven't seen the movie. All I've seen is the same 1 minute, 2 minute trailer. We could show it, I guess. I don't know. It's up to you guys.
I could pull it up.
No, we're going to play something. I want to play the Yuval Harari clip.
Okay.
Because I think that's super interesting because it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Let's do that.
Okay, we'll save that. Oh, you want to play that now, or do you want to?
I want to play the Yuval Harari clip, and there's a ton of stuff I want to also get to on the after show, because I like what you're saying here about like when people trash the faith, it's easy to refute. The problem comes when you have Catholics presenting you with something.
Exactly. Spielberg is going to give so much energy to the Catholic promoters of the deception. This is, I think, before we get to Harari, real quick, I believe Spielberg is one of the chief false prophets of the Great Deception.
Oh, wow.
And people are going to think I'm a crazy idiot for saying this because they love Spielberg because everyone loves to be entertained. And Spielberg is the chief entertainer in the world today. He's by far the top director. Hollywood is by far the chief entertainer. He is the unquestioned supreme master of entertainment today. He, in my opinion, is the chief promoter of the Great Deception. Why? Because, as I said, we talked about this 15 minutes ago, the myths which we will wander into are science fiction. And Spielberg's entire career, yes, I enjoyed Indiana Jones as much as anyone. I'm not condemning you for enjoying any of this stuff. I have as well. But his career, the bookends of his career, the climax of his career, it is all about aliens. His first movie, which one?
E.T.
E.T.
Was he the Close Encounters?
Close Encounters, yes. Yep. But what nobody knows about is his first movie, his absolute first ever movie when he was only 18 years old. It was called Firelight. And it was about this heroic, and no one has the original footage, by the way. There's a few clips of it on YouTube, and that's it. But the gist of it is there's this heroic guy who's fighting for getting the government to acknowledge that aliens exist and are here. And he has these UFO experiences. And basically, my thesis is that he is going to try this movie that he's coming out with in 5 months now. Disclosure Day is what it's called. He wants to be himself the hero of the first movie he ever made. And he was 18 years old, almost 60 years ago. And he has been molding us like no one else through Close Encounters of the Third Kind, E.T. the Extraterrestrial, and then AI, artificial intelligence. He had us all crying over David, the AI, because David, and this was
That's
20.
Right. I forgot about that movie.
This was like 25 years ago. I think it was 2000 it came out, maybe. But the what, I don't know if it's the climax or not, but perhaps the turning point of that movie was this thing called the Flesh Fair. And you have to realize that part of your battle is realizing that the bad guys in movies like this are actually the good guys. So the bad guy, the chief bad guy in his AI movie is this character called Lord Johnson. And Lord Johnson has these big fairs where they just demolish machines. And Lord Johnson gives a speech right there in the middle of AI saying they are mocking us. They are mocking God's children. They are mocking God's creation. So Spielberg has the chief antagonist, the chief bad guy of his AI movie, be a devout Christian who sees the presentation of AI as human as a mockery of God's creation. And that is Spielberg in a nutshell there with the AI deception.
That's an anti-story, right? It's
Exactly.
an inverted story where the AI is the good, humane one and the humans are inhumane. Right. It's really insane how these movies really do have
but because it's a movie, we all sympathize with it, we identify with it, and we don't realize how much it's forming us. You are being
they have a deep psychological subconscious effect on us where you actually now empathize with the AI over the human. It's inverted storytelling, man. That's crazy.
He did it expertly and perfectly, and nobody even realized it happened to them.
The AI screams out, "I'm a real boy."
He says, "I'm a real boy," and his AI friend, the AI prostitute played by Jude Law, his final words are "I am," as he's being taken away by the humans. I am the God's sovereignty. So this, and the movie starts by a discussion of God creating Adam, and this gets back to the Kabbalah and the Golem and goodness, I'm going to take us way off.
No, we're going to do that on the other side. We're talking Kabbalah. We're doing Kabbalah.
The whole AI deception started with these Kabbalistic Jews who believed that their goal was to. Modern AI started with these Kabbalistic Jews at MIT who thought that through AI they were heeding God's command. So God made man as in his own image, and they said they believe that their calling at the end of time is to make AI in man's image, to themselves become God.
Yeah.
And they're explicit about that. And those were the fathers of the modern AI movement.
All right, we're going to the other side. We're doing this on the other side because I want to.
What were we talking about 10 minutes ago? 5 minutes ago, we were
going to do the Yuval Harari clip, and then we got.
Spielberg brought us to.
That was all better, anyways.
All right, so Spielberg, this has been his thing the whole time, and now he's coming out with his magnum opus, Disclosure Day, and I believe that he is going to use. He's a Jew, but he's going to use Catholicism as his vehicle for presenting the great deception in his greatest movie yet, which will be his most deceiving movie yet. That's what I think is going to happen.
So the thing is, this is a very important thing that I want to talk about on the other side too, because what I've been watching happening in the Catholic world is you're seeing a lot of Catholics get grouped together with certain entities because they want to present something that is kind of true and it's Catholic. Like I watched in unison this week, Matt Fradd, Michael Knowles, and now Isabel Brown all came out with a form of Catholic teaching that is against Christian Zionism with a but. And I watched all of them come out in a few days' time, as if there was a planning meeting behind the scenes where they said, okay, we need to repair the Daily Wire image, and this is what is acceptable to be presented to the public, where we say, no, the church is the new Israel, but, and that's what I would like to talk about on the other side, because I think it's actually kind of important. You have anything, Rob?
I have two questions from the audience that I think would be good to get to. They're from two friends of the show. So first is from our local Protestant who will be probably joining RCA, whether he knows it or not.
Praise
fall.
God.
But he brings up the abductions, alien abductions. How do you help people who claim to have been abducted by aliens and have real trauma?
There's so many, and I have interviewed so many now, and they always fall into two categories. There's no third category, and this is the key here. There are those who realize that what happened to them was a demonic deception and they found healing. And there are those who don't realize that and they've become completely new age. Those are the only two categories. So this is, there are no aliens, but there are many so-called alien abductions. And this is just the modern guise for demonic, I'm not saying full-blown possession necessarily. That's relatively rare still, but at least obsession, vexation, and so on and so forth. And what people don't realize is that they think that a physical mark, for example, is proof that this is not a demonic phenomenon, that it must be aliens. No, ask any exorcist. You don't even have to be full-blown possessed. Vexation and obsession, the demons can attack you, especially at night, but any time. And they will leave burns and scrapes and things like that. You can't go out of an experience like that and think, oh, I have a burn or a scrape or something. There's some physical difference in my room. Like one guy I was talking to, he says, I woke up wearing a whole different pair of pants as I went to bed. It's like, guys, that's not a proof that there's aliens. Demons do weird stuff like that all the time.
And especially stuff like that, they can mess with your mind. And
right.
Yeah.
There's several different things that the demons are fully within their capabilities to do. They cannot become truly incarnate. They cannot work a true miracle, but they can mess with your sense impressions. They can't enter directly into your mind or will. That's God's sovereign territory. But they can enter, the phantasms, the imagination, the things that are kind of in your neurochemistry, kind of above your mind itself. They have access to that. They can mess with your sense impressions. They can mess with your imagination. They can mess with the light photons as they go through the air, or the sound waves as they go through the air. And to cap it all off, they can actually temporarily assume an ephemeral body from the air molecules there. So they can seem, and this is what all these UFO sightings, 99% of them are just some natural thing that was misinterpreted. But the remaining 1% or 5% or whatever, the demons can rearrange the molecules in the air and create an actual physical body. That doesn't mean that it's actually it's not what it appears to be. So
it's not hosting a soul or anything
right,
like
it's
that.
not hosting a soul. They can never do that. That's beyond their capabilities. And they can't. So that would be ET encounters. In the most severe ET encounters, the demon was actually, for reasons known to God alone, was actually given permission to assume temporarily assume an ephemeral body. And that's disconcerting, of course, that the demons are allowed to do that now, but also we're told that there will come a time with these false signs and wonders, and things like that have happened before, but they're happening even more today, I believe. With UFO sightings, the same thing can happen, just on a bigger scale.
Yeah, in the end times, God will unbound the demons. Like there's a period where they're bound and Christianity spreads and things like that. And as the Christian altars erect, the demons are bound in the depths. But at the end times, those demons are going to be released upon the earth. I mean, you go and read Apocalypse 9, and it talks about the star who falls from heaven and opens the key to the abyss, and those things come about on the earth. Like, what do you think we're witnessing right now? You're just seeing the return of these ancient pagan deities coming back and having authority on the earth once again. And the church is no longer performing her like going around and marching incense and performing exorcisms like we once did. Like, what do you
or Eucharistic processions,
or Eucharistic processions? Yeah, all the things we did to put these demons at bay are ceasing.
Blessed bells.
Yeah,
and don't forget COVID. where the universal sacrifice of the mass was publicly
Shut
suspended
down.
like never
Yeah.
before in the whole history of the church. And
Yeah.
that, I am still convinced, created a spiritual black hole that has yet to explode. I mean, we have not yet seen the full effects of that.
I don't know. I don't know about everyone else, but I still feel it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's
I
been
still
something
haven't
since
recovered from
COVID that is
It's like,
still
yeah,
there.
I mean, there's a dark cloud hanging over the whole earth since that. I think that a certain period, and I don't get into the whole evangelical, like when did the 7-year trib start? Like, I don't know. I try to keep it more general than that. And obviously I don't believe in the rapture or anything like that. That's all evangelical stuff. That's not true. But they are right. In principle, the evangelicals, God bless them, you know, I love their zeal. They're certainly right about these prophecies coming to fruition, and it's spoken of in Scripture. But Fulton Sheen said it best, and you just made me think of it, Anthony. And I was looking through my pile here, and I have it. He said this was his famous 1947 prophecy, which everybody has heard a couple quotes from, but you got to look at the whole address. If you Google it, like 1947 Fulton Sheen, I can't remember. I think it was a radio address as usual, but it's, you know, it's I've got a big chunk of it from my book. But Fulton Sheen said that the Antichrist basically is coming. He will set up a counter church, which will be the ape of the church, because he, the devil, is the ape of God. And a lot of us have heard that line already from Fulton Sheen's 1947 prophecy, that it will be reverse and emptied of its divine content. But he also said, concluding that same address, Fulton Sheen, he said that the value of the trial will be to set us apart. And he said the times of these are times of troubles, and it is not so much a third world war that is to be feared, but rather the rebirth of Leviathan, the coming of the days of the beast. And then he quotes a poet, Heinrich Heim, who says, once the taming talisman, the cross, is broken, the savagery of the old battlers will flare up again. Then the old stone gods will rise from forgotten rubble and rub the dust of 1,000 years from their eyes. And Thor will leap up with his giant hammer and start smashing Gothic cathedrals.
Wow.
There you go.
Fulton Sheen said that in the birth of the Cold War. And we are now at its conclusion.
1947.
Mhm.
Roswell happened in 47.
And that was Roswell. And that was Israel. Everything started in
and the
1947.
CIA was created in 1947.
CIA. We are ending the period. I believe that we are now coming to the conclusion of the period that began in 1947, and that the climax of this conclusion will be the day of disclosure, which will be a lie, a deception, the great deception, the strong delusion of 2 Thessalonians.
Well,
and Fulton Sheen says
guys,
this is not the Third World War. Yeah, that's coming too, but that's nothing. Don't even worry about that.
If those of you who wished Anthony wouldn't black pill, I'm sorry.
Oh, I love it. Let's go. I love it. Let's talk about the apocalypse. Wait, Coptic Josh did ask, he said, is it possible that the NWO is losing control with this mass awakening with the young people and finding all this out? What happens if God steps in and stops this? What if they fail? I'll let Daniel answer that in a second, but I don't know if they're losing control, but I think the mass awakening of young people and finding this out is really just a grace from God, in that God is always looking to save souls, right? So no matter how bad things get in the church, you still see people drawn to Catholicism. God is always at work, regardless of the plans of man. So, I mean, that's
absolutely. Yeah, don't you know, and you know, so I just said, you know, don't worry about the Third World War, worry about the rebirth of Leviathan, as Fulton Sheen said. Well, don't even worry about that. Worry about eternal salvation and eternal damnation, because even the apocalyptic events are nothing compared to those two realities, which are always in front of us. So God's ultimate work in the world is always the salvation of the individual soul, and he's always doing that, even unto the end of time. Let that always be your primary concern, your salvation and the salvation of as many other souls as you can possibly achieve in the meantime. You know, the apocalyptic considerations, I think that's very serious, but that's always background. Foreground is salvation.
People think I'm blackpilling on the apocalypse, and I'm like, I'm excited. I want to see the end of the story.
Yeah, no, it's black pilling and white pilling. And you know, this is a big debate thing, but I have no time at all for red pills or blue pills. They're both deceptions. I have both white pills and black pills.
Yeah,
because everything's black and white for me. But and that's why I wear black.
Well, we're talking about race now with Daniel. Let's go.
Right. It's because I'm very
Oh.
racist, right? But
No,
no,
like,
I'm like
I love the idea of seeing the return of the king. It's an exciting part of the story. I don't know why
it's
people
the
get
most
upset
exciting
about
part of the
that.
story. But also, I don't think we're at the definitive end. I think the return of the king, I believe all those old prophecies and new ones about the great Catholic monarch and the era of
I knew
peace
Daniel
and the
was my
triumph of the
kind of person.
Immaculate Heart of Mary. Sorry, was that?
No,
I always tell it the same thing. I'm like, we're coming to an end, but it's like the end of Holhauser's Fifth Age.
Yeah, I don't
You
think
know?
it's the end of the world. I mean, maybe that's soon. I don't know, but I believe that all this deception we're seeing, I don't think the end of the world is going to come immediately after that. I know a lot of trads do, and this is plenty of room for disagreement.
yeah,
I'm
no,
not
but
condemning
the
anyone.
thing is, like, first off, the like eschatology especially is something open for interpretation.
Yeah, it's
like,
by far the most difficult realm of all. So temporal eschatology is the most difficult to pin down.
So it's like if there's a period of peace, like, because I do think the Antichrist is imminent, but if there's a period of peace after that, like, that would be amazing, like
I absolutely
that's
believe
the reign
that.
of Our Lady's Immaculate Heart.
Yeah, the Immaculate Heart hasn't triumphed yet. Like these apologists, they say, "Oh, the era of Fatima's over because the Berlin Wall fell." Come on, the Queen of Heaven and Earth promises her Immaculate Heart will triumph, and you think all she meant by that was the Berlin Wall's going to fall? No, there's going to be an era
only
of
for
peace.
Yugoslavia to dissolve and everyone murder everyone. And...
Yeah. There's some other things as well. I'm waiting. So I'm fully black pilled and fully white pilled. If it's the end of the world, that'd be perfect because at the end of the day, all we want is eternal salvation. That'd be the best. But I don't think it is. I think we've got Antichrist coming, and I think there's going to be a triumph of the church after that, before the end of time. I have no idea how long that is.
This is something I've debated with Joshua Charles, because I do think there's going to be a restoration of Peter. I think there's going to be a sequence of events that happen after, like, these crazy things that I see approaching. But that's why eschatology is interesting, because it is open for interpretation. Like, nobody.
Right.
Otherwise, you don't know prophecy until after it's fulfilled. So it is a little vague and it's not perfectly written out. We don't know exactly how things will play out. And it's an exciting, like, God chose us to be alive during this time. This is an amazing thing. And anybody
Saint Therese of Lisieux says she envies those in our times.
Yeah.
She envies the tortures of the Antichrist because that's like the best time to be be And I know that's what you're most looking forward to, Anthony, is the tortures of the Antichrist. Well, I'm looking forward to the era of peace after that.
It's like, especially if you read something like the Ladder of Divine Ascent, things like that, there's a couple of them where they talk about the end times where things are so debaucherous that they're one of the fathers is like, we would never survive that time. But the thing is, the people who do survive that time, like, it's almost like the easiest time in the world to be a saint, because all you have to do is live out your vocation or your I just called marriage a vocation. People are going to get on me for that. But if you're a husband, you're a father, you're a child. Like, if you're a child without parents, like, honor your mother and father. If you're a parent, love your wife, love your children, or get them to heaven, and you will become a saint in these latter times.
Where sin abounds, grace abounds all the more. And St. Louis de Montfort said that there will be such grace in the end times that the saints of those times will tower above all other saints, like the cedars of Lebanon tower above a small shrub. And he said that will be because of their consecration to Mary and this age of Mary. And he didn't know, of course, about Fatima. He was well before then. He didn't know that Our Lady was going to come in the greatest apparition ever and promise a triumph of her Immaculate Heart. But by the way, the ufologists, one of their chief things now is trying to reframe Fatima as a UFO encounter.
100%.
They're trying to take everything and turn it into an extraterrestrial.
Yeah, there were these guys talking about, well, look at this, what happened in Fatima, and these people saw the sun. All right, listen, we're going over to the other side. Molly is right. If I didn't have work tomorrow, this would be a 4-hour show. But I do have.
How long have we been?
I
was just getting warmed up.
We still have plenty of time. Don't worry. But the people that want to see the rest of the conversation, they got to cough up $5. Stop being cheap, people. We give the best show on YouTube. Daniel's coming to hang on the other side. We're going to go over there. I want to talk about what I'm seeing with the Daily Wire, kind of giving this rescript where they're like, okay, this is what we can present to the public. But I also, there's still tons of stuff to get over there. We never got to the Harari video. We never got to a few things that I sent to Rob in Telegram. So if you're enjoying this show, come and hang with us for the rest of it. I will stay late tonight. We'll stay on until 10:30. If Daniel can hang, we'll stay. So Rob,
absolutely.
put the link for locals on the other side.
Yeah, let me grab that real quick. Hold on.
And let me see. I put a bunch of stuff up. We got to talk about Mike Huckabee. We got to talk about let's see. Your AI-based girlfriend will arrive in 5 years, according to Microsoft's AI CEO, and will be a permanent companion. In 5 years' time, everybody will have their own AI companion who knows them so intimately and so personally they will come to live life alongside you. These people are insane.
But we're already there, especially with teenagers. They've all got their AI companions, and it's unbelievably apocalyptic already.
I think I've read a stat somewhere, and I don't know how accurate it is, but something like 80% of women aged 24 and under have, had an AI boyfriend in a sense.
Wow. We're already here. Everything that has been warned of has already begun.
Yeah, we still never actually got to the Bank of England thing where the Bank of England must plan for financial crisis sparked by aliens. A former
and that's what we were going to start with, right? It only takes me about an hour and a half to get started.
Let's jump right into that. So, all right, so guys, if you're not locals members, we do the best we can to give you guys a good YouTube show, but we always save the best for locals. Come on, it's like, think about how much money you guys waste on all these other platforms. We're the best show. Come on the other side. Stop being cheap. Daniel, anything we want to promote before we go to the other side? Because you got 1,000 people watching right now.
I got a book coming out with Ignatius Press with Doug Barry, my good friend Doug Barry, and keep an eye out for that first line of defense about Catholic men manning up spiritually, but also physically.
Awesome.
So,
and then also Daniel O'Connor's YouTube channel. Go check out Daniel O'Connor's YouTube channel. And then what was your actual book on this? It was called.
If you want to, I got a couple books. There's a huge one, but please go with the little one. Spare yourself some time. First and Last Deception would be the way to go. First and Last Deception.
So, guys, everybody say thank Daniel for coming on. We're gonna do another one of these because Daniel's so interesting.
Absolutely.
Like when a show goes by like this, and you're just like you can't even.
I did it again. I'm sorry. I tried to restrain myself, but I wasn't actually looking at my clock. I usually set a timer, and I didn't do that today, so I kept droning on. I apologize.
This is the perfect show to do that on. It's just I want to make sure we get these bums to throw $5 our way. So
we should just do like an AMA with Daniel.
That would be fun.
What is AMA? Is that American Music Awards?
No, it stands for Ask Me Anything.
Oh,
so
okay.
Ask me any question you want about aliens or.
All right.
People have tons of questions.
Really
I mean, I hope we have time for me to discuss the super secret trad meeting I went to this weekend, but I don't know if we'll have time for that. Me and Rob might have to do that Thursday night. So, all right, guys, if you're not members, join us over on Locals. Rob, take us out, brother.
If you missed the intro, here it is again, guys.